Have you ever stepped outside and felt like someone was already watching before you even locked the door? Or maybe it's that neighbor always coincidentally around watering the same patch of grass for the third time today. It seems harmless, right? But what if those small, odd moments are just the tip of something much more unsettling? Let's talk about a reality most people ignore until it's too late. That feeling of being watched. It's not always paranoia. Sometimes it's instinct. Sometimes it's warning you. Picture this. You're just living your everyday life. You go outside to breathe, to reset, but somehow a particular neighbor always shows up. Always. It's as if they're on standby waiting for your every move. Sounds familiar? It might not be your imagination. After all, there's a fine line between friendly neighbors and the ones who blur into something far more invasive. When the boundaries dissolve, your peaceful home can slowly morph into a place of silent tension, where every creak and every curtain movement feels like a performance for someone else's eyes. And here's the thing, if you've ever caught yourself lowering your voice in your own kitchen just in case someone's listening, congratulations. Your instincts are working. You might be sensing the truth before your mind catches up. In this video, I'm going to walk you through 5 clear, undeniable signs that your neighbor isn't just being curious. They're actively monitoring you. These signs are subtle, but missing them could cost you your peace of mind, and more so stay close, because once you learn how to recognize these red flags, you'll never see your neighborhood the same way again. And if you believe that your personal space should be sacred, smash that subscribe button. We've got a lot more survival wisdom lined up just for you. Let's start with the first sign. Sign 1. They always seem to appear right when you step outside. It might sound like coincidence. At first you open your door and boom, there they are again. Maybe they're watering plants, fixing the mailbox, or fiddling with their car. One time, okay. Twice, sure, but every single day, that's not normal. This isn't about friendly interactions like bumping into each other during Saturday morning mail runs. No, this is about something that slowly stops feeling random and starts feeling rehearsed. Let me tell you about David. He's a quiet guy, a retired firefighter who enjoys peaceful evening walks around his block. Nothing out of the ordinary, but one neighbor 3 houses down began to stand out. Every evening without fail, this man was outside checking his car, fiddling with tools, timing it almost perfectly with David's routine. At first, David thought, what a coincidence, but then things started to shift, and that's where the story takes a turn, which we'll pick up in the next part. Picking up from where we left off, David began to realize that something wasn't right. The coincidental encounters were no longer occasional. They had become a strange pattern, like someone was tracking his every step. No matter what time David chose for his walk, early evening, late at night, even in the rain, that neighbor was always there, not doing anything overtly suspicious, just always present, tidying up a garage that was already spotless, sweeping a driveway that had no dust, leaning on his car, scrolling aimlessly through his phone. What started as mild discomfort soon evolved into something heavier, a creeping sense that David's movements weren't just being noticed, they were being anticipated. There's a psychological term for this: hypervigilant observation. It's when someone watches your habits so closely, they can predict your next move before you even make it, and that's when things turn dangerous. Because patterns don't emerge by accident. They're built through focus, intention, and often an unhealthy obsession. A neighbor who monitors your routines this closely is rarely just being curious. Over time, they may start convincing themselves that your life somehow belongs in their world. The ancient Stoics understood this kind of hidden threat even without security cameras or Wi-Fi. They taught that your greatest defense isn't control over the outside world, but over your own mind. Marcus Aurelius wrote that disturbances don't come from events themselves, but from our judgment about them. So when you sense something is wrong, you must trust that signal, see it clearly, but don't let fear cloud your reasoning. The goal isn't panic, it's clarity in action. So what should you do when coincidences begin to feel like calculated surveillance? First, document everything calmly and systematically. Start a private log, record dates, times, what you noticed, what felt unusual, because when it comes to your safety, trust is not enough. You need evidence. Technology can be your ally. Install cameras, review the footage. Subtle patterns like someone hovering near your home minutes after you leave will reveal themselves. These recordings aren't just for peace of mind, they become essential if the situation ever reaches legal territory. Another smart move: break your routine, change the times you leave, park your car in a different spot, and then watch. Does your neighbor adapt quickly to your new habits? If so, that's a powerful indicator you're not just imagining things. This isn't paranoia, it's vigilance. It's the understanding that true safety isn't just about locked doors, it's about reading the terrain of your life and noticing who's quietly trying to redraw the map. Even David accepted the truth of his situation, but he didn't explode. He didn't hurl accusations. He responded the way a true Stoic would: calm, composed, and prepared. He quietly shifted his routine, kept records of his neighbor's repeated presence, and without drama began making the next move, which we'll explore in the following part. Picking up from the previous part, David didn't just recognize the threat. He acted. And when the situation escalated, when his neighbor trespassed onto his lawn late at night, David didn't hesitate. He contacted the local authorities because he trusted his instincts, stayed composed, and followed a clear strategy. He was able to reclaim his peace of mind without falling into fear or rage. But here's a truth many people are afraid to admit: if you feel like you're being watched, there's a real chance that you are. The human mind can sense danger even before logic confirms it, and ignoring that feeling, that's not strength, that's self-betrayal. Strength, as the Stoics taught, is in acknowledging the threat, defending your peace, and moving forward with calm, unshakable confidence. Your home, your mind, your inner sanctuary deserve nothing less. Sign to their technology is focused on you this second. Sin that your neighbor may be watching you is far more dangerous because it doesn't come with footsteps on gravel or a knock at your door. It slips in silently, unseen, like a whisper in the air. In today's digital world, surveillance no longer requires clumsy effort. All it takes is a lens aimed just right, a hidden gadget no larger than a coin or a router, silently intercepting your signals, and suddenly your private life becomes someone else's entertainment. You might begin to notice little things: a neighbor's security camera strangely pointed toward your front yard, a direct line of sight into your living room, a clear view of your children playing. This isn't carelessness, this isn't bad installation, it's intent. The emotional impact begins subtly. You toss and turn at night, you feel irritated and don't know why. You hesitate to open the blinds. You flinch when the doorbell rings, then it deepens. Anxiety takes root. The place that once felt like the safest on earth becomes an invisible cage. You begin to doubt yourself. Am I imagining this? But your instincts are screaming a warning that your rational mind is too polite to accept your space is being violated, and with today's tech, your neighbor doesn't need to be a hacker to become the ghost quietly haunting your day-to-day. A smartphone silently recording a Wi-Fi signal, catching your conversations. A smart device glitching at odd hours. These aren't technical hiccups, they're fractures forming in the walls of your peace, and each day you ignore them, those cracks spread further. The psychological toll of being silently watched is corrosive. It eats away at your freedom, at your spontaneity, at your ability to just exist without self-management. Stop singing in the kitchen. You hesitate before stepping outside. You begin to measure your laughter, your arguments, your grief, and before long, you're not really living anymore, performing constantly, editing yourself for an unseen audience. You never agreed to entertain. STOIC would tell you this. Yes, the violation of your privacy is real. But what truly matters is how you choose to respond, and that's exactly what we'll explore in the next part as we saw in the previous section. Privacy violations don't always come with footsteps or cameras. Sometimes they invade your peace of mind quietly, invisibly, and it's your response that determines whether you reclaim control or surrender it. But here's the truth you must hold on to. Surrendering your peace is a choice. Marcus Aurelius taught that the thing standing between you and ruin is not what happens to you, but how you choose to respond. You may not be able to control your neighbor's devices, but the defense of your mind, your safety, and your dignity, that's entirely in your hands. So act not with panic, but with clarity and precision. Walk your property as if you've never seen it before. Look higher, look closer. Cameras can be hidden in ceiling lights, fake birdhouses even nestled within tree branches. Strange Wi-Fi signals that appear only when you're home. Those aren't harmless. They could be the first signs of a digital intrusion. Battery drains, smart devices turning on by themselves. These aren't random glitches. They're warning flares. Arm yourself with the right tools, encrypted networks, strong firewalls, and cameras of your own pointed the right way, not spying, but protecting control of your digital gates, the way a commander fortifies a city before a siege. But above all, remember, this victory is not just surviving under surveillance, it's refusing to let fear become your warden. Set your boundaries, physically, digitally, and mentally, and once you've drawn those lines, live fully within them, untouched in spirit, no matter who watches from the shadows. Because true freedom isn't the absence of intrusion. It's the refusal to surrender your mind to its sign. 3. They know private details they shouldn't. Did you know that less than 5 casual conversations overheard in a week is all it takes to reconstruct the outline of someone's private life? In a world where information is currency, a neighbor who listens too closely is not just being friendly, they're quietly building a blueprint of your life. And that brings us to the third major sign. Your neighbor knows far more about you than you've ever shared. It always starts off subtle, a passing comment about your sister's new job in Phoenix, even though you've never spoken about it beyond your own 4 walls. Or maybe they congratulate you on a pair of expensive sneakers, ones you ordered online and haven't even unboxed yet. At first, it all seems harmless, easy to overlook, but once you notice it, you can't unsee it. Our neighbor complimenting a new haircut, that's one thing. But a neighbor who knows you got it at exactly 2:30 p.m. last Tuesday and paid with your Visa card, that's not friendliness, that's surveillance. What Worse is what's happening behind the scenes. Psychologically, these neighbors begin to feel entitled, as if proximity gives them permission to access your life. They justify their behavior under the guise of neighborly concern or casual curiosity, but how much of it is really coincidence? The answer may become even clearer in the next part. Previously, we uncovered how a neighbor knowing too much about your private life isn't a coincidence. It's calculated, but what's even more unsettling, the way this information is collected and used quietly, strategically, as a form of control. No mistake, the accumulation of small, seemingly innocent details about your life is a form of manipulation. This is how subtle manipulators operate, gathering silent ammunition without your awareness or consent. The consequences go far beyond discomfort. When someone can anticipate your schedule, your routines, even your private decisions, without you ever saying a word, your sense of personal safety begins to deteriorate. You no longer feel free in your own home. You begin censoring your conversations. You weigh every word, wondering what's been overheard, recorded, remembered from a stoic perspective. The path forward is clear. You can't control who other people are, but you can absolutely control the boundaries you set. Marcus Aurelius once taught that external events only have power if we give them authority over our minds. So if you feel your privacy is being invaded, you must act not by reacting recklessly, but by reclaiming control over what leaves the sanctuary of your space here. One way to test the waters: say something fictional, like a trip you're not actually planning, within earshot of your neighbor. If they casually bring it up later, then you have your answer. It's a crude test, yes, but brutally effective. And while you observe, start tightening your defenses. Avoid sensitive conversations near open windows. Use white noise machines to mask sound through thin walls. Think carefully before posting online. Even small details, like your location or daily habits, can become tools in the wrong hands, because establishing strong informational boundaries is not about paranoia. It's about wisdom, and it's exactly what the Stoics lived by: protecting what is yours, your mind, your peace, your private world, from the reach of those who refuse to respect invisible lines. In the end, a neighbor who feels entitled to the unseen corners of your life isn't just nosy. They are slowly erasing the line between public interaction and private existence. And once that line is crossed, getting it back doesn't require rage or fear. It requires a firm strategic defense of your personal sovereignty. And speaking of protecting what's yours, if you found this content helpful, don't forget to subscribe. Your future self will thank you for choosing awareness over regret. For there's physical evidence around your property. This next sign that your neighbor may be watching you isn't something you can brush off anymore. It's not about vague feelings or subtle clues. It's about things you can see, things you can touch, things you can confer with your own eyes. It's no longer in your head, it's in plain sight. Clear signs that someone has been too close, observing, touching, collecting information where they absolutely should not be. In the next part, we'll uncover exactly what those signs look like. In the previous section, we explored how subtle physical signs around your property can reveal more than just coincidence. They point to deliberate, invasive behavior. And what makes these signs so disturbing is their quietness. Now imagine this: a man named Richard lived in a peaceful suburban neighborhood where everything felt familiar and orderly. He had a small personal habit. Every time he left or returned home, he would place his welcome mat at a slight angle. It wasn't intentional, just a subtle subconscious marker, a silent signature that made the space feel like his own. But one evening, after returning from a weekend trip, Richard noticed something odd. The mat was perfectly straight and positioned, with meticulous care at first. He brushed it off, probably the wind, he told himself. But the next morning, another detail stood out. The potted plant by his front door, which he always turned toward the sun, was now facing the street. Then a few days later, his mailbox, usually sealed shut, was slightly ajar, even though no new mail had arrived. These were small details, easy to dismiss if you wanted to, but deep down Richard knew better. Something wasn't right. Someone wasn't just walking by his home. They were observing it, interacting with it, testing the boundary between the outside world and his private space. And that's what makes this kind of sign so emotionally devastating. When physical objects within your private environment are disturbed, it's not just a breach of space. It's a psychological invasion. Your home, the one place where you should feel safest, suddenly doesn't feel untouchable anymore. That sense of security begins to fracture, because someone else's curiosity, or worse, their obsession, has crossed into your reality. Subtle disruptions speak volumes. If you know how to notice the mail that seems opened and resealed, poorly packages placed differently than usual, window blinds shifted ever so slightly, these aren't accidents. They're signs, and if you ignore them, you give that invasive behavior room to grow. Bolder security experts recommend simple but powerful telltale methods. Sliver of clear tape over the doorframe, a tiny piece of paper slipped between the door and the jamb. If these markers are moved, torn, or missing when you return, it's a clear sign someone has entered your space without your knowledge or consent. And if you find something suspicious, document it all. Take photos with visible timestamps. Keep a private journal of what you noticed, when and how it made you feel. This isn't paranoia, it's preparation. It's building a foundation of evidence just in case things escalate. The emotional weight of these discoveries cannot be overstated. You begin questioning more than just a neighbor's intentions. You begin questioning the entire community around you, because once trust is cracked, it doesn't heal easily. And once the sanctuary of your home has been breached, every creak in the floor, every object slightly out of place becomes a reminder of just how vulnerable you really are. So, when your home has already been touched in such quiet, calculated washout, do you reclaim your control? That's exactly what we'll explore in the next part, continuing from the previous section, where physical evidence confirmed a clear boundary had been crossed. There comes a point when what you're experiencing is no longer subtle. It's no longer about discomfort. It's about reclaiming your control, calmly and deliberately. From a Stoic perspective, there's one critical truth to remember. You can't prevent every external intrusion, but you can choose how you respond. Internally, as Epictetus taught, it is not the events themselves that disturb us, but our interpretation of them. So recognizing the violation is necessary, but the Stoic way forward: act with clarity, secure your home, document your findings, and most importantly, fortify your peace of mind. That is how you begin to reclaim your personal autonomy. Physical evidence of surveillance isn't just coincidence, it's a warning siren. Proof that someone has crossed a line from casual curiosity into something deeper and darker. So, trust your instincts, protect your space, And above all, protect your mental sanctuaries. Most sacred space you own. Sign 5. Their behavior escalates into obsession. This is the 5th and most dangerous sign, because now your neighbor isn't just being nosy, they've crossed the line into obsession. Studies show that in over 70% of stalking cases, the victim personally knew the stalker and often dismissed early warning signs, believing it was just concern or innocent friendliness. But escalation like this rarely happens overnight. It creeps in gradually, inch by inch, until the situation shifts from uncomfortable to downright threatening. Take a moment to reflect. Have you ever had an interaction with a neighbor that left you feeling off? The way they lingered just a little too long. The way their comments seemed timed too perfectly, almost like they knew something you hadn't shared. How many times have you silenced that discomfort just to avoid seeming rude or paranoid? We all do it. We train ourselves to be polite to give others the benefit of the doubt, but your instincts weren't made to be polite, they were made to protect. You'll let me share a story with you. A woman named Karen lived in a quiet suburban cul-de-sac. At first she thought nothing of the neighbor who waved just a bit too enthusiastically every time she left for work. Over time, though, he started asking questions about her job, dropping specific details she didn't remember sharing with him. Then one night, after a private phone call behind closed doors in which she casually mentioned taking a weekend trip, she found a note under her doormat. Have a great trip. No one else knew the coincidence shook her, but she still convinced herself it was harmless. It wasn't. Within weeks, the same neighbor was seen entering her backyard while she was away, claiming he was checking on her. Prophet Karen's story is not unusual. It's a textbook example of how boundary violations begin quietly and then escalate psychologically. The shift from casual interest to fixation is deeply disturbing, because at that point you're no longer seen as a person, you're being treated like an object, to be observed, to be controlled, to be inserted into without consent. So, what do you do when someone no longer sees your boundaries but sees you as territory? That's exactly what we'll confront together in the final part. As we saw earlier, when a neighbor's behavior escalates from curiosity to obsession, something deeply unsettling can happen. They begin positioning themselves as your protector. They try to become your confidant, your go-to, the one who's always looking out for you, while quietly they isolate you from the rest of your community. Might feel like kindness, but it's not. It's strategic manipulation, carefully designed to make you more dependent and easier to control. From a Stoic point of view, your response must be both immediate and rational. Marcus Aurelius taught us that external threats don't define who we are, only our actions do. So what's your first action? Documentation. Write down dates, times, conversations, even the smallest details that seem off. You're not journaling for emotional release. You're building a shield, and if things continue to escalate, don't hesitate to seek legal protection. Restraining orders, cease and desist, let us enter sealing laws. All of these exist to protect you, and don't second-guess yourself about calling the police early. Law enforcement is there to act long before things turn tragic, so don't go through it alone. Reach out. Predators thrive on isolation, but connection is your greatest weapon. Call a friend, tell your family, let people know what's going on. This isn't about confrontation. This is about protecting your life, your mind, and your right to exist without fear. Because obsession rarely walks in the front door with flashing lights. It tiptoes in disguised as concern, as politeness as coincidence. That's why recognizing the shift early and acting is critical courage. Doesn't mean you're not afraid, it means you act despite the fear to protect what matters. In your instincts, they're ancient survival tools, sharpened over thousands of years, so trust them, because once someone crosses the line into obsession, your silence will not protect you, only action will. If you've made it this far, congratulations. You're officially part of the 1% who can spot the difference between a friendly neighbor and a full-time amateur spy now. You know the signs, the traps, and, most importantly, how to defend your sanctuary before someone else turns it into their personal TV show. Awareness doesn't mean living in fear. It just means locking the door before the wolf ever thinks of knocking. You deserve to live with your curtains open, your home full of light, and your heart at peace, not second-guessing every rustle at the mailbox. So trust your instincts, protect your space, and if this video opened your eye, don't stop here. Hit that subscribe button and become part of a community that refuses to sleep with one eye open now. And the next video, the algorithm picked for you. It's not random, it's your next shield. Click it now. Your future self and your future peace of mind will thank you for it.